Elephants are among the animals closest to humans. We can also call them emotional giants. They are known to have a very good memory. But is their memory strong enough to recognize a human 10 years later? Here's the story of an elephant that will astonish you. Don't forget to watch until the end of the video, because it's the most interesting story of an animal-human relationship you'll ever hear. Daphne Hankins, whose passion for animals began at an early age, was born on a large logging farm outside the village of Gilgil in Kenya. At a young age, she went to a zoo for the first time with her father. It was then that Daphne's interest in animals began. As a little girl, she realized how beautiful and special animals are. She discovered how extraordinary it felt to be around them. And that's when she decided. From then on, she wanted to spend her life helping them and making them happy. She promised herself that she would keep every animal she was with safe. Time moved on. Daphne grew up. She excelled in school and graduated at the top of her class. She was even offered a medical scholarship. A medical scholarship was not an offer made to students very often, and it was a very valuable opportunity. It was especially special for a young person in a country like Kenya, where conditions were poor. But Daphne made an unexpected decision, as she had a dream she wanted to fulfill. She met David Sheldrick, the man she would later marry. David was the founding director of Tsavo National Park. His love for animals was noticeable to everyone, just like Daphne's. They were soulmates, and they loved each other very much and got married. Soon after, Daphne started working as a co-leader in this national park. For Daphne, working here was the fulfillment of the dreams she had as a little girl. Everything was as beautiful as a dream. Together with the man she loved, they helped all kinds of wild animals. Among these animals were especially elephants who had lost their parents. They were saving elephants that had lost their parents for various reasons, including drought, epidemics, and the ruthless ivory trade. Poachers in the region would take the tusks of elephants and mercilessly slaughter these innocent animals to make tons of money. Unfortunately, this was a common occurrence here. Daphne and her husband David tried to take good care of the animals they rescued from such situations whenever they could. They taught the young animals the skills needed to live in the wild and cared for them until they were ready to return to nature. Their life was perfect. When she gave birth to baby Jill, Daphne and David's happiness was priceless. All of Daphne's dreams had come true. She had her dream job, and she had a family she loved very much. Unfortunately, life was not always so rosy. Daphne would be devastated by the news she would receive in the future. After 17 years of happy togetherness, great sadness came. Daphne lost her husband David to a heart attack. After his death, Daphne found it very difficult to resume her life. She took time off from work to mourn, but her pain would not go away. She was so worn down that she considered quitting the job altogether. She couldn't bear the thought of being without David in the place where she had worked with him for so many years. Yet something inside her told her that this was all a sign. She knew she had to keep going, even though it was hard, not only for the little girl inside her, but also for David's dream. Little did she know, a miracle awaited her. Daphne went on to create her own national park, Nairobi National Park. In this park, elephants and rhinos were the priority, and various efforts were made to prevent ivory poaching. Campaigns were organized, and after a while, the national park was awarded Kenya's highest honor in the animal welfare category. It didn't stop there. Daphne was appointed the female commander of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II. One day, when Daphne came to visit the park, she saw an orphaned baby elephant that had just lost its parents. The baby had sadly lost its mother and didn't know how to hold on to life. Daphne felt very differently about this baby. This wasn't the first time she had cared for an elephant calf, but this one was particularly affectionate and felt different from the others. After a while, Daphne and the elephant became so attached to each other that it didn't want to eat during Daphne's 2-week absence. She named this beloved elephant Kamba. Daphne spent most of her time with Kamba, playing games and reading stories together. At night, when Kamba was sleeping, Daphne would quietly hug him. Of course, Daphne loved all the animals in the park, but she had a completely different bond with Kamba. As much as Daphne wanted to keep Kamba with her, she knew that one day she would have to say goodbye. That day finally came. Kamba was now old enough to return to nature, and in his place, other animals that needed help had to be brought in. Daphne hugged Kamba one last time. The farewell was hard for both of them, but she let him go despite the sadness in her heart. Daphne thought she would never see Kamba again. She didn't know what time would bring. Years passed. 28 years later, the park was still doing its job. Daphne was now an old woman. With the challenges of old age, she couldn't be in the park as often as before and only occasionally came to help. The work was exhausting for her due to discomfort in her hip, but nothing stopped Daphne from coming to the park and helping as much as she could. One ordinary spring day, Daphne sat quietly in the park, feeling peaceful and enjoying the calm. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a loud bang, and everyone was stunned. A large herd of elephants had entered the area, and though it seemed like an ordinary event, these elephants were acting differently. The herd came to the park's entrance and stopped there. At first, no one reacted much, but soon everyone, including the officials, grew curious. The elephants just stood there, as if waiting for something. Some attendants thought they might need help, but the elephants showed no signs of distress. News of this event quickly reached Daphne. Excited, Daphne packed up and rushed to the scene. With her years of experience with elephants, she knew how to approach and communicate with them. If anyone could solve this mystery, it was Daphne. As she approached the elephants, the strongest one in the herd stepped forward and moved toward her. Daphne, with her vast experience, immediately realized that this elephant was familiar with humans. Then, in an incredible moment, Daphne froze. "Are you Kamba?" she asked as she walked toward the elephant and hugged him. Yes, this elephant was indeed Kamba, and he gently hugged the old woman with his trunk. The little elephant whose life she had saved so many years ago, the one she had raised with such love, now stood before her fully grown. Kamba had not forgotten his surrogate mother, even after all these years. He had returned to thank her. Everyone in the park watched with tears in their eyes, admiring the elephant's trust and love. The park welcomed this herd of elephants as guests once again before they returned to the wild. As you can see from this true story, elephants have a remarkable memory. They do not forget, even if years pass. Please don't forget to like the video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel.